Welcome to the Visualize Meditations podcast, hosted by your friend Sasha Patil, a Chopra certified meditation teacher. The first step to creating the life of your dreams is to create a clear and compelling vision for what you want for the future. I'll be guiding you on visualization meditation so you can get clear on your deepest desires. Let's get started so you can turn your vision into a reality. Hello. Welcome back to the Visualize Meditations podcast. It's your gal pal, Sasha. And let me just paint the scene for you right now. We are outside of Salt Lake in Eden, yes, in the valley, which is what everyone calls it here. And this valley is truly magic. I've been here for 4 days now. And I'm here with my besties, my pals, Chris and Nick. I'm so excited. We've been saying, we're so excited for the pod. Just sit down, record, all of that. You may be wondering why I'm wearing a blanket. It's because it's very cold here and my Miami ass is freezing constantly. I'm like, can you please toast my butt every time we get in the car? So we're hanging. We've been snowboarding the last 3 days, power of immersion, and just really enjoying our time together. And we haven't sat down and had an actual chat yet, which is pretty crazy, especially considering the context of how we know each other. But welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So just to get into it, how do we know each other?
Started at Gills. And does your podcast know about Gills?
We can explain.
Yeah. Long story short, it's the Tony Robbins Youth Leadership Summit. And I was volunteering there a couple years ago, first year back in person since COVID. And we bonded over the chaos of all the things that were happening.
Yeah, we did.
We did. Should we say what we talked about? Is that
everything? We we totally can.
I can leave that for the imagination.
Yeah, we talked about we talked about a lot of things.
Very quickly got very acquainted.
Yes, very quickly. And towards the end of our trip, it just got I'm very open about sex and talking about sex.
Yeah. And I was semi-closeted gay. I came out previously, but then COVID happened, and I just went back into the shell of not telling people about it, and now this happened. So
yeah. And then so that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Two
and a half now. Yeah. Almost 3 years
ago.
Wow.
And then at this past UPW in November, I saw you afar in the crowd. I was like, that looks like Chris, but with long hair. And I didn't have your number, so I called you on Instagram. I was like, are you here?
Yeah.
And then I tracked you down, and then you told me about Nick, and you're like, I met the man of my dreams. And you pointed him out to me. And then a couple of days later, I just approached him. I was like, are you Chris's boyfriend? And I was just like, we're friends now.
And then she does this, she grabs my hand, and you did a thing with my hand that I've never seen before, and then you gave me this bracelet.
Yeah, the friendship bracelet. It's called the Plur. So it's peace, love, unity, respect, and then you trade friendship bracelets, and it's a big rave thing. Yeah, it's like that. But no, you gotta keep it.
That's what you did. Yeah.
I love that you guys still wear these friendship bracelets.
Of course.
I have all my bracelets
upstairs,
off right now. Yeah, but I wear it on the daily.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Really, he does.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It makes me so happy. So my next question is one that we can do it both ways, but I typically ask, what are 3 words you'd use to describe yourself? And I do want to know that, but I also would love to know 3 words you would use to describe the other person.
Because I could think about this for forever, so I'm just going to try to go quicker with it. I'm going to say...
For yourself or for Nick?
For me.
Okay.
I will say open. I will say open-minded.
Are those different?
Those are different. Yeah, open as in me talking about myself. And then and then open-minded being open to external experiences and just whatever comes from the universe, which has been amazing over this past year and a half, really doing that. And then I would say ADHD. So many things pop in, and it's I want to do all of them. So, and I'm learning actually how to make it so that I can do as many as I can possibly do, but not any more than that, and say no to things has been a very big revelation recently. So, yeah.
Okay, so for Chris, because that's an easier one for me, I would say loving, brilliant, and beautiful. And I want to throw in inspirational also. He's extremely inspiring.
A bonus word.
And of course, and for me, it changes like crazy. At this time in my life, I think I would say loving. Open-minded is like excited for life is what I would describe it as. And I think I used to say like leader or something like that, which seems very basic, I think. I think it is much more like about alignment and being aligned with what I feel like my mission is, and being able to feel it and go after it and do it and know what is right or wrong for me. That's not a word, but
Aligned could be a word.
Yeah, aligned. And the bonus word, service. I like, it's like giving. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love to give and help.
Nick has taught me how to love, and he is the most loving person that I have ever met. So absolutely loving. And I would say quick learner as one word, hyphen.
That's cool.
Because we both had so much growth over the past year and a half, and it amazes me how quickly Nick has been like breaking old patterns and things that have been ingrained for your whole life and taught to you, and being able to step out of that, moving to Chicago in the first place, quitting your 9-to-5 and deciding that like you just needed to do things differently.
Dream job, 401k, that whole thing gone.
Yeah. And everybody telling him that he was crazy, and he did it. And
They were the crazy ones.
And then I would say a man.
Thank you, baby. Yeah, I think this past year, thank you, baby, I appreciate that. This past year, in the beginning, Chris, all I saw in him was love, and that he explained to me that wasn't a part of himself that he's been able to explore, and that was so funny to me because I was like, it's all I like see in you. And as we've grown, we were in an amazing place, and then some old pattern comes up, and not Chris, his emotions and everything are always just like incredible. I'll dip a good bit and be like, what is going on? And then take a day or two to work through it, and then things will click, usually with conversations with Chris, and then that's typically relatively the end of it. So we've both been growing really quickly. With these old things will come up, and then in a couple days, it's like, no more. Yeah.
Or a couple hours at this point. It's like, or minutes, or seconds. Sometimes I slap him to bring him
Break
back.
my pattern and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like it's like very actively breaking through these like limiting patterns and
Very much.
Yeah, it's really great that you guys can do that for each other as well. Like in the moment, because sometimes you get caught in the spiral, and sometimes you get caught in the thing, and when you're with someone else who can't break that pattern for you or can't help facilitate you working through that, because sometimes you can do it by yourself, but it's a little bit more challenging. But when you're with somebody who can also help do that for you, it really speeds up the process, because they're almost like a mirror for
Absolutely.
your shit.
Absolutely. And when we don't have each other in any moments, I have found that I really need solitude, whether it be doing something active or out in nature, or do something that, according to my personality style, recharges my emotional batteries. And it's very different for everybody else, for different people. And to be able to go inward and figure those things out. That works very well too.
That works. Okay. I'm really curious about this process of you quitting your 9-to-5. What did that look like?
Oh boy. How many hours do we have? Okay. It looked like a whole lot of, I don't know if it was a panic attacks, I don't know, but heart palpitations and debilitating, like almost feeling like I was going to faint, but not. No heavy breathing or anything, and I was seemingly calm, but it was a lot of fear, a lot of freaking out.
I didn't know any of this really. Like I knew that I didn't know it was to that extent, because he wouldn't portray that on the calls that we would do, because we were long distance. I was from Chicago and he was from Houston, and so we were long distance for 3, 4, 5 months. 4 months.
Yeah, we met first at Date with Destiny,
In
Tony
December.
Robbins event in December, early December.
Moved up to my place in May.
Right. Yeah. So was looking at the 9-to-5 was at an aerospace company called Axiom Space. We worked with NASA, and I was doing amazing things there with an amazing team. And we got to design interfaces. I got to be the person on a radio with astronauts saying, Houston, we have a problem, that whole thing. I got to design the interior of the next International Space Station or help parts of that, and really amazing things. The culture there, while the leaders were doing their best to make it amazing, it just has a long way to go. And there were a few people in the group that I think led with fear, and it percolated throughout the group, and it just did not become a good place. It was very fear-based and very climb the corporate ladder, and you would hear things. I had rumors spread about me, and some managers believed it. It was ridiculous. So my hair was falling out. Thinning, I shouldn't say falling out. My hormones, testosterone was all over the place, all kinds of weird issues. Went to therapy. My relationship was imploding and all this stuff. But this was before Date with Destiny. But anyways, I was like, yeah, this is just not right. I feel so squeezed out of this part of my life. I never thought I would be in a 9-to-5. And I even talked to my dad about it, and he was like, it's something telling you that you need to work on your inventions. And because I went to school to be a product designer and industrial designer and UI UX designer and researcher and stuff like that, and did very well. And so I wanted to use the skills that I learned in college to turn my ideas that I've had since I was a very little kid into real products to help people. And it was either become an inventor and an entrepreneur or like an astronaut or something. And then I found myself working at a space station, doing a little bit of both, and very debilitated and trying to do these things and be who I was. And I was not used to the best of my ability. And it was just a mess. So a lot of limiting beliefs and things, unhelpful patterns popped up for me there and were developed there associated with a lot of pain, and it took a long time to break through them. And so I was talking to Chris more and more after Date with Destiny, because that was like so much better. And I was able to be more myself and bring that light into that company and around my friends. And they all saw the difference, and things got so much better. But it wasn't what it needed to be to keep me there, because when I saw what I knew I wanted my life to be and what it could be, it was like I woke up and I was like, what am I, after a long dream, right? It was like, what am I doing here? It was like, I gotta get out of here. And so I started looking for every avenue to get out and applying to all kinds of jobs, all kinds, and lots of my friends at the company, some of them knew, and when they found out, they were like, tell me where you go, because I want to leave too, or scared of me to leave because I was the only one defending them from the poor leadership, and which put a target on my back from the certain leadership. So it was basically all that was going on. I was trying to move departments. My boss at the time, nothing I did was, I would do what she would say, and then she would ask me why I did it. And it was very confusing, and we can dig into that another time.
You were trying to get a remote position when deciding to work.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to get a remote position with the company from a different department, which allowed remote positions, but they were reducing that availability very quickly. And I tried to get in, and the manager of the company had several of his people working under him telling him to hire me. And he was like, yeah, I will. And I'll schedule a meeting. And 2 weeks went by. I didn't hear from this guy. And I would walk by his desk sometimes, and he's like, yeah, I'm just super busy, and just never did. And so I'm like, okay. To this day, I don't know why or what was up with that. But basically, I am so glad that he never hired me because pretty soon, Chris would talk for a while at that point about, what if you just moved in with me? And I was like, how am I going to pay my bills? I just bought a new car. There's these expenses that I can't put onto you. I have to be able to pay for that, and most other jobs won't afford that. So a lot of those expenses were associated with health issues, which were associated with mental state. So once I got through those mental state things, a lot of those other expenses disappeared, and I was pretty much left with a gym membership and a car, and then
a couch
and an apartment membership. They had a good deal on couches, and I got one, and I wanted a couch. There's a whole story there too. I eventually sold it like a few weeks ago,
which was a big moment.
I wanted the couch.
That's
There's
fair.
a whole story. furniture in my family's very close, and furniture in it is handed down. And it's not a thing, but it naturally became one. And couches are places where we all convene.
Gather, yeah.
And they're meaningful things. So when I bought the couch, I had a vision of what I wanted my kids to inherit. So when I bought the couch, that it was like pretty much the couch. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. When I move into a log cabin one day, we'll put it up in the loft somewhere and use it for the kids' game room or something like that. And I wanted to ship it here. I didn't want to get rid of it. Also because I was still paying it off. But anyways, let go of a lot of those expectations and everything, sold it. That's all besides the point. Once a lot of the expenses went away and Chris's company, his marketing company, was built to a point where he could take on those payments with me. In my mind, it was with me helping him with the company or like getting some kind of job to do things to help out financially, it would work. So we then went to a Joseph McClendon event near my birthday in Georgia in April and last year. And Joseph sent us through all these meditations and was explaining what he really does and how he does it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like the culmination of all the different passion, because I've always been so interested in so much and I had so many passions and they've never come to one thing, like, or one direction. That was the first time since I was a kid that I felt like all my passions were a pattern and it all made sense. And I was like, all these things exist in this. So I signed up for neuroencoding there, became a neuroencoder, and decided to do that. I had to stay the extra day, which would mean I would have to call the boss we did not get along at the time. Weird energy there. And I had to tell her, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm staying an extra day because I have to do this. And I think that was completely like off the table for her. And I told her that's what I was doing. And she didn't reply for a couple days or something. Said she was super disappointed, all this stuff. But when I did that, it was actually internally my decision that I was leaving no matter what. And whatever her reaction was didn't matter. So I got back and she didn't really say much. A couple days went by and I was like, hey, Chris and I talked after that and we were like, I'm going to move to Chicago with him. We always planned on coming to Utah, but that was months into the future. So I was like, I'm going to move into Chicago with Chris and get my shit straight, figure out what I really want to do with my life. It's not what we called it, but that's essentially what happened.
Right.
And left, and yeah, it was a huge, huge thing. I told my boss that I was leaving and she seemed relieved and I was certainly relieved. And the last week there was like so good and so happy and so surreal. And I'm so glad I got out. I'm so glad that other person didn't hire me. I'm so glad I went to Chicago and traveled across the country, hooked up a trailer that was way too heavy for my car and pulled it the whole way with Chris. Chris flew down and moved with me.
And the couch.
And the couch.
The couch came.
The couch came. And most of my stuff, most of my life was in Chris's parents' house.
Wow.
Yeah, for what, a couple months?
Yeah. We sold the couch 2 weeks ago-ish. And that was
a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Well, because I keep bringing it up because Nick and I had very different upbringings, and because of that, we have different rules and just emotions around things and expectations around things that we didn't really realize that we had of ourselves, and that we didn't think that other people didn't have of themselves. And to me, I didn't really care about anything material, and not that you cared about it materially, but cared about anything sentimentally. I was a person that just didn't feel a lot of love and didn't attach to things. So to me, bringing the couch was like...
Just logistically didn't make sense.
Didn't make
and
sense.
I'm
a lot more money.
Extremely sentimental.
Yes. Like we spent a lot more money to take it to Chicago than we would have if we just had left it in Texas and then sold it there. And then it was a process to I never like outright said to leave the couch, but that was a process to say, like, when we're coming to Utah, to not bring it with us, and with the intention of it listing on Facebook Marketplace and getting rid of it. And I felt like it was a symbol of, and he had some good conversations with some of our friends who actually sold all of their stuff and rented got an RV and then just started like living. and living the minimalistic lifestyle,
Yeah.
detached from any.
Now they travel everywhere, anytime, and have millions of dollars. And yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that couch is a big symbol of like the past Nick.
Letting go.
Yeah.
And letting go of those old expectations.
And you can still be sentimental about things, and when you guys have and like nest into a home, you'll get whatever you want and have that.
Right.
And like it can come back, but it doesn't have to be the thing right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the most important memories of my life have been when I was a very little kid with family and just spending time with them. That's some of my highest highs. And so I didn't know this at the time, but I associated the things and the places with the joy instead of the people with the joy. I did associate the people with the joy, but it was a lot of the association was still with the things, and reframing that to associating it with just the memories and the people, and that's it. And that has been great. It's freeing.
Yeah, completely. I've noticed that with photos too. Like the photos I really enjoy. Yeah, you can take a photo of a beautiful mountain or a beautiful rock formation or an ocean or whatever, and it's okay. Well, when you look through all your photos, it's a freaking ocean or a mountain or whatever. They all look the same. But the difference is like when you have the people in there and you're like, wow, I shared this moment with these people. And the difference I also find is, well, this is just my personal preference. When I'm taking a photo and it's like everyone's standing in a line, holding each other's back, smiling, versus like someone capturing a moment, very different energy, versus we are here in a place versus we are experiencing a place together and having a memory built together is something that's always, I see it with photos a lot, So what do you feel like, I love asking this question in real life, but I love it for the pod too. What's the best piece and the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece was to stop giving a fuck. Because when I stopped giving a fuck, everything happened that I wanted in the previous place. And what I mean by that too is I used to care so much about other people's expectations of me that other people's expectations of me became my expectations of me, and I didn't realize that. And so people would tell me like, "Oh, you're so smart," and as a teacher, you tell your kids that they're smart, and that makes sense, and that feels like it should be a good thing, and of course the intention is good. And the problem is how I received it, and I received it as, "You're so smart." That's an expectation, and now anything that is preventing me from feeling that emotion or feeling that way is something that's attacking my identity. And so I would react to my teachers. If I felt like I wasn't doing well in a class, it was their fault, not mine, because I'm a smart person. So my ego wanted to protect my identity. Being straight, like that, people asking me if I had a girlfriend and just consistently asking me that. And like that, there's no harm in that question, but I took that in the wrong way. I took that as I'm supposed to have a girlfriend, when in reality, most of them would have accepted me being gay, but that's not how I took it. And when I kept on building those expectations on me from other people, I became further and further away from who I actually was. And when I went to Date with Destiny as part of it and a few other events teaching me that the patterns that I was doing to myself and how to let go of that, and then also replace it with healthy, positive things that I decided for myself, that's when everything just fell into place on its own, as opposed to me just trying to meet other people's expectations and what they want for me. So that has been the best.
Yes.
the best thing for sure.
I have received lots of really good feedback, and it feels like one of those like earth-shattering, like this is the best ever, different parts of my life. But I think at this time in my life, in this moment, it culminates to the worst piece of advice is to be careful. And I think, and that's about careful. It's fear-based, and it's don't live too hard. It's bullshit. And it's to be afraid of trying something or of doing what you think would be fun or enjoyable or aligned with your passion, or in other words, to live according to how society says people should live. Born, get a 9 to 5, go to college, get a good job, all that sort of thing.
Live in the matrix.
Right.
Yeah.
It's and then live in this world of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, and then of fear of judgment and a million other things. If you don't do that, keeping you there, that is not direct advice that I've received, but inadvertently, when you live around people who live that way, that's where you're pointed. And that is the worst advice I have ever received. And I think it's the worst advice most people have ever received.
Yeah.
And the best advice is so go ahead, baby.
I have a bad one so I can, if you want to take a second to.
I grabbed it before it goes away because ADHD as well. And don't focus on it leaving because then it's going to leave. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Because mine has to do with ADHD as well. And the worst thing that I have been told so many times is to just do one thing. Is to you just need to focus on one thing. You just need to relax, take time to yourself, all this shit. And again, it's other people's expectations of how maybe it works for their world, or it's just how they were told that things are supposed to work in their world. But my brain does not work that way. And when I realized that, and when I learned that from this guy, Dr. K, it opened my mind to ADHD and just the way that my brain thinks being a superpower, as opposed to it being a disorder.
Yes.
It's not a disorder. You can take it that way if you want to, and you can hide behind that as a crutch. Or you can say, actually, this disorder allows me to learn things so fast and for me to be able to focus on and move quickly in a lot of different things. But I can't focus on one thing because if I do, I get bored and then I never want to do it again. Even if it's something that was enjoyable for some time, if it's the only thing that I'm doing, it won't stimulate my brain enough for it to feel good. So I was told that if you're so smart, if you could just apply yourself. And what I took that as is, something's wrong with me. Like I'm just a lazy person. I just don't have motivation. That's bullshit. I had a ton of motivation to do the things that I wanted to do, but I was always told you can't do those things. You have to do these things. And once I figured out that was not the case, and I again let go of other people's expectations of me, is another huge part of me being able to just manifest what I actually wanted in life. And it just comes to me. And we are so busy now with so many different things, but it's so stress-free. Yeah. Because it's what we want to be doing, and we don't feel misaligned. It's all within alignment. Yeah. You can do too many things. There is a thing of doing too many things, even as an ADHD person. So, and again, I think I said earlier, as saying no to things is an important part of that. And spinning, not one plate because you get bored, not two plates because you get bored, but like 3, 4, 5. We're getting a little bit too far. But there's somewhere on that spectrum that the perfect amount of plates for you to spin, and find that for you.
Right. Right. Definitely. And something else with that is when you're spinning your plates, say it's 3 or 4, let's say it's 3, a plate isn't always a vehicle. It could be an outcome that you're looking for, and then you find multiple vehicles to go for that outcome. And sometimes people confuse something that you're going after with a vehicle, and then their focus goes to the vehicle instead of the real reason why you want it. And then you realize you have all these opportunities. You have a million vehicles and tools. It's a fucking toolbox. You don't have to.
It's like when you're focused on the how versus the why.
Exactly. That's what it is. So probably the best piece of advice that I've ever received that I can think of right now culminates down to what reality really is. And the fact that, not to get metaphysical, but like conscious beings all experience reality. We each experience our own version of reality. Yes. Based on our beliefs and our fears and all these other things and what we want, we remember and take certain things. We're not going to take 100% of the input around us at all times. We're going to take in what we think is important to us, whether it's positive or negative. So, yes, reality is a thing. our perception of it is limited, and then each person's perception of it is different. So living based on, so many people live based on other people's, what they think the majority's perception of reality is, instead of just what theirs is. So the best piece of advice is to live, I don't want to say it generically, but it's to live how you feel like you were meant to live, and do what you feel like you were meant to do, and create the life you feel like you were meant to create, regardless of what you feel like you should do. Or it's the opposite side of the coin of the bad piece of advice I just mentioned. It's have the joy and excitement. It's not even the bravery, but it's the joy and excitement to do and create the life that you want to create, how you want to do it. And don't let your fear of what other people's perceptions are stop you, because their perception of reality is just as correct/incorrect as yours.
Yeah.
And so just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We heard this really gorgeous piece of it. I don't know if it's the best piece of advice I've ever received, but we heard this really gorgeous metaphor the other night at a dinner party, and that it keeps playing in my head. And I don't remember quite the context around it. There were a lot of stories happening that night. But she was talking about a lot of times we're the bee, we're the bumblebee, and we're going around to all these flowers trying to pollinate the flower. And when I believe like the differentiating factor was making decisions in your own intuition and alignment that were completely for you and in your own perception and right for you. It's when you become the flower and all the bees come to you.
That's right.
And her saying that really struck a chord with me. It's okay, instead of just focusing on getting everything done and pushing and making sure it all happens and going blah, 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 like stopping and just making aligned action and allowing everything to come to you the way it's supposed to. I want to throw it out there because I don't want to forget that one. Right. That one's a really, it really, really sat with me quite so well. Okay. So right now we're at the beginning of 2025. In the last year, which is actually great because you guys are just hitting like a year mark of coming to visit Utah together for the first time and your first kiss. Oh my God. What's the biggest lesson you feel like you've learned in the last year?
I think, okay, I don't have an answer to that right now, but I just want to say this past year, 2024, has been, so end of 2023, and then certainly throughout 2024, has been the year I have grown the most in my entire life.
Same.
And what I mean by grown, I don't mean becoming as much as shedding the bullshit that you pick up and going back to who you really are and who you really were as a kid without all the bullshit. And then also becoming more and expanding from that. So that's a big question.
Shedding.
Yeah.
Wow. I really relate to that completely. We've talked about my story with my breakup, and it's not something I'm sharing publicly on the podcast about what happened, but you guys know. And yeah, the last year was very, very much so me trying to fit myself into someone else's mold and someone else's perception of what I should be, and then just shedding that layer and being like, no, actually, who am I? And am I acting and am I in a situation that's promoting and more aligned with who I actually am, or someone else's perception of whatever? So I had to shed the layer of my relationship in order to come back to, or not even come back to, but come forward to who I truly am and my true nature. But yeah, can relate completely. Like shedding that skin, just get off me. Get off me. Yeah.
Yeah, and so many people live with these masks, and
take the mask off.
Take it off. It's no way to live.
Yeah.
For me, it's been getting clear on, like you said, not the vehicles of things that I want to do, but just the outcomes of what impact or what our relationship could be, and being open to the universe and its energy of somehow figuring out the perfect way for you to do those things. Because us finding the valley, us meeting so many people in the valley. Sasha, you experienced it over the past 3 days.
Magic.
Of how much magic can happen when you are just putting yourself out there, clear on what you want, and then asking for it. Whether it's like physically asking people or whether it's just putting out into the universe.
As an intention, just being authentically you.
And your brain, scientifically, your reticular activating system will look for those things. And damn, is it good at it.
Yeah.
Damn, is it good at it.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good. When you like put your intention out there and put the energy out there and just make aligned action or take aligned action. Oh, the magic. And the magic here in the valley is insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Just like the synchronicities that have been happening since I've been here, and the people you're around and the energy in this place is unparalleled. And so far on my journey, I've been doing this now for a month and a half. This place has felt, which is crazy because I don't like the cold. If I liked the cold, I'd really consider, which is crazy because I'm a city person.
Oh, wow.
I'm a big city girl. I don't know if I'd consider moving here, maybe like a second home or something, but the energy and the magic in this place is really unparalleled. And so far in my journeys, this has been like the closest to feeling, not like myself, but because I felt like myself the whole time, but almost just the life. Like even just my productivity here has been incredible, but at the same time, it's like we're going and snowboarding every day. Yeah. Oh, also, this is like not on my list of questions, but I am curious because for me, I love to learn new hobbies, new skills. I had 3 like new skills I wanted to learn this year, which is surfing, snowboarding, and DJing. Which is crazy because my layover in Hawaii literally went from surfing, flew here, and then the next day went snowboarding, which is cool to do the back-to-back.
Super cool.
And I feel like when I learn these new skills, I love to use learning a new skill as a vehicle for personal development and like personal lessons. And I know I've learned a lot about myself through snowboarding the last couple of days. Do you feel like you've gained any like personal lessons through learning to snowboard? Because also for the context, I force these guys to come snowboarding with me. They are skiers, and I was like, I want to fall on my butt for 3 days. Will you please learn with me too? So we were all beginners together. I felt like I learned a lot of lessons, but do you guys feel like you had any personal takeaways from the snowboarding experience?
For sure. We actually have been wanting to learn how to snowboard regardless and have intended to go ourselves to Nordic, the resort right down the street. And then when you were coming up, we were like, oh, we'll just wait for Sasha. We'll do it with her. So absolutely wanted to do it. And learning to snowboard reinforced the lesson from, learning to snowboard and learning to ski really brought a lot of lessons that I've used in everyday life for sure. And they're extremely similar. Learning to snowboard so far it just reiterated the lesson of, don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. Get up and try it again. You're going to keep falling and you're learning. Get up and try it again. Skiing, however, which really taught me that, but more, it taught me. So when you're skiing, you're like in a squatting like stance and you're leaning forward so far that if you weren't wearing skis, you might fall forward, maybe. And when the slope starts to drop, your instinct is to lean back and be vertical with the gravity of the earth. You need to be vertical against the slope that you're on. So as it keeps getting steeper, your body needs to keep moving forward, and that's a really weird thing to do. So it's when you feel that fear and that intention to pull back of, oh, I'm doing this, I'm going to lean back. With skiing, when you lean forward, you have control. When you lean back, you lose all control and you fall. So you have to lean forward or you will fall when you ski into it. So the lesson has been, this feels like a roller coaster sometimes. Lean into it and don't. When you pull back and you start focusing on fear, where focus goes, energy flows, that you fuck up.
Yeah. I experienced that same thing with snowboarding too, with the switch turns, where it's like I was watching people and I'm like, okay, when they switch to their toe edge, they have to they literally take their hips and lean into the mountain, which is so counterintuitive because it's the same thing. It's like you want to lean back and then you fall, basically. So it's the same thing, like completely lean in, and it might seem counterintuitive, but that's when you have more control. Yeah. Wow.
Same.
Same. Yeah. It was really interesting too, because I was talking with Chris, I think it was the second day. The first day was really interesting because we were just going down that magic carpet, down that bunny hill all day, basically. And every time I would fall down, I'd be like, woo, and I would cheer. And then the second day there was like a school field trip happening, and there were so many kids on this bunny hill.
So many little moving obstacles.
Yeah, so many obstacles. I had a kid run into me. I'm pretty sure I ran into you at one point. It was like a whole thing. And I was so focused on the obstacle and being really hard on myself, where I'm like, oh, today I was supposed to be better than yesterday. Why is this harder? And I was focusing on the obstacle and focusing on why it was so difficult and like just being hard on myself, instead of celebrating falling on my ass and instead of whatever. And I will say the thing that helped was for the first day I was like did it in silence, and in the second day and the third day I put music in my ears, specifically Jack Harlow, the true love of my life. Put Jack Harlow in my ears and I just had him going all day, and it's more just like the groove. And I would almost do this physiology state change where I just do a little boogie in my shoulders every time I needed to get up and get in the groove, because it's like I need to be focusing on having fun and making this experience fun, as opposed to, oh my God, these obstacles are all in my way and like I keep falling and this is so frustrating. And then the whole lean in thing, like I feel like it's just, I learned a lot through that whole experience, which was really awesome. So is there a childhood dream that still lives within both of you?
Well, did you have a...
Oh, did you have one?
Yeah,
You just said same, right?
Yeah.
Same what you said,
Yeah.
same. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah, is there a childhood dream that still lives in you?
Childhood dream. You want to go first, baby?
This is, it'd be a lot to get into my past, but I don't remember much of my childhood, so not really.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to be a waitress at some point in my
Really?
and I would say waitress because I was like 8 and didn't know the difference, so my neighbors would be like making fun of me for that, which was fun. But I did not have many childhood. I had childhood, and when I say childhood, really I'm thinking like my teenage years and like college, of wanting to start a revolution kind of thing, because I was so angry and not happy with who I was, but projecting that out onto the world. But no, that's gone.
That's very much gone. We'll dig into your childhood. We'll find some memories. For me, that's also a very weird question for me, because I have memories that I can't really explain. And my mom will corroborate what I remember in the environment in those moments.
He remembers his birth.
So does my grandfather. Well, I don't remember the act of being born. I remember right after that being held and seeing my dad, who I didn't know at the time. I remember thinking, I was like, okay, who's this guy? And then him taking his mask off and smiling. And I was like, I remember feeling fear, and I was like, that's a lot of teeth. And then I felt an overwhelming amount of love. And that was the first time that I felt in my body, that I felt pulled to be here. However you want to take that.
Share about your aunt's house and like the AC or something.
When my mom was pregnant with me, well, okay, so first time going to Colorado, we were at my aunt's house. It's this little cabin on this huge ranch, and it's a gorgeous place. So homey. And they have the wall heaters that are gas, and you have to turn them on. And there's this one heater, and I saw it, and I looked at it, and I was like, I remember that. I was like, why do I know this? And my mom was trying to turn it on, and I was like, hey, isn't there a weird thing about having to turn this one on? It's broken, you have to do something weird. And she was like, oh yeah, how'd you know that? And nobody told us anything. This was like first few minutes walking in, first day or something like that. Aunt wasn't even in the room. And my mom was like, oh yeah, someone told me that, but that was years ago. And then she was like, oh, I was pregnant with you when they told me that. And I didn't remember what the action was, but I knew where the action was and that you had to do something weird, and mom did it. And I was like, oh yeah, that. And it worked. Little things like that.
Whoa.
A lot of weird memories. There's even weirder memories that I'll get into in another time. But high level, when I was born, I had a sense of urgency to speak. And I had to tell my parents something. And I remembered what it was. And as I was struggling, trying to teach myself to speak, I remember this urgency of I have to tell them. And when I say them, humans, it wasn't just my parents. And a series of events happened that led those memories to be not gone, but repressed. It feels different. And I did end up learning to speak very early. I don't remember how old I was, but my parents said I was extremely young. And my first word was apple juice because I wanted apple juice. But so there was always this drive, and I remember the drive being for humanity.
Yeah.
So the childhood dream has always been, I've always been searching for the vehicle, because I used to be focused on the vehicle of what that thing was and what am I going to do with my skills to fulfill that knowing that there's that purpose there. And I used to think that it was to become an inventor, and I, in a lot of ways, I think it still is. And the story of my life have gone through some different places than I expected that it going. So there wasn't ever one vehicle dream, but there was always the outcome of having massive impact in the world. And it's not just to leave a legacy for me, or it's not about me at all. It's knowing that I was meant to pull people together to affect change, talking on a very high level.
Yeah.
And the vehicle's changed like crazy, but yeah.
As long as you know the why, the how will come.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there something you used to desire in your life that is now just a normal part of your life?
A log cabin house.
A log cabin house?
Oh yeah. Both of us.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. The ability to live in the mountains and ski, ability to own our own businesses, have a Jeep Wrangler. I'm a big car guy.
Yeah.
Just being in an environment that supports who I am and who I want to be, and not having anything to pull me back.
Yeah.
And that is where we are.
Right. Yeah. I've always the core of what I've always felt that I've really wanted comes down to that sense of family and community that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And as we all grow older, we all pick up different patterns and go in different directions in our life. And as my aunts and uncles had kids, and then like some of their kids have kids, and so my aunts and uncles are like grandparents now, and so we don't get together as often as we used to. And learning to let go of that and not force them to come together like we did when I was little, but just appreciating what that was a big learning moment. And realizing that when I was younger, I didn't try to force anything. I wasn't trying to make anything happen. I was just enjoying the journey. And as I grew up, I kept trying to recreate that and force it. And since then, I've realized that and have let that go, and have just learned it was so special because I was just enjoying the journey with loving people. And so coming back to that and realizing that you can do that with chosen family, with your friends and people who are aligned with you, and it doesn't have to be a blood relative to have the same environment.
Completely. So I am currently 26. If you could go back to your 26-year-old self and give them a piece of wisdom, what would you say?
When I was 26, at that point in my life, I would probably tell myself to drop all the anxiety and worry about what other people thought and stay true. I would have to say it in a different way for it to really sink in that moment. But it's akin to stand up for yourself and what you believe in. And even if that means turning your whole world and environment completely upside down and rebuilding it from the ground up, because it is necessary sometimes, and it is so worth it.
I'm 26, but when I first turned 26, which was just in March of this year, I would say to listen and continue. And what I mean by that is listen to what the universe is telling you. Listen to what your body is telling you about food, what to eat. Listen to who's around you, but not what they're saying, but what their intention is. Listen to anything that in your environment and listen also means to calm your mind. Let your thoughts go so that you can truly listen and not be thinking about what your response is to people or what you need to do next. It's sitting back and becoming the flower, and not being the bee that's trying to hit every single flower, but you just stop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm learning to do that process too, because there's so many opportunities. I want to do them all, and just there's so many things that I've always been so interested in, and I feel like I used to be in the middle of an ocean, and I could see land on some areas, but then when I really started to look, it's like there's land everywhere, and I don't know which land I want to go to. I feel like I'm moving away from, and when I looked at my whole life, at all the things that really brought me happiness and fulfillment, and where I felt I could really impact, I wrote everything down, and it felt, and this is a process I have some of my coaching clients do, it felt like they were scattered and like all over the place and didn't really align. As I got into it more, they do align, and there is patterns there, and there are things that you can do. Again, not the vehicle, because that's very narrow and limiting. The why, the outcome that you want, that culminates all of it, and then you build a vehicle for that. And yeah, when that happens, it's incredible.
Wow. If future you could come back to this moment and give yourself a piece of wisdom, what would that be?
That's a good question. Good coach.
Delegate faster and stop needing to be the one to do everything. Because one of my old primary question, which is a Tony thing, that basically there's questions that you ask yourself so consistently without being conscious about it, but it's a thing it guides your life.
Yeah.
And my old primary question at the beginning really of this year is, how can I make this work? And it served me in many ways of just figuring out some really cool things that have happened from it, and pushing through and accepting a bunch of opportunities. But now I'm at the point where there's so many opportunities that if I say yes to everything, then it can't work. And I have a lot of people in my life that can find people. Recently found someone across the seas who helps me with web development, and he's amazing. And I get to support him in his life, and he makes things so much easier for me. I don't have to think about it. Like he just gets things done. And so I can increase my impact 100-fold by not just, and Tony talks about this too, not just delegating by telling someone to do, leveraging and giving the purpose as to why you're asking for these things, so that that person is then empowered to take creative liberties and run with it with their own ideas.
Yeah.
And then you can come back to it, and it's a collaborative experience as opposed to you just telling someone what to do. So I've been working on that very much. And
It's been doing great. It's been night and day. It's been amazing. I'm so proud of you.
I still think of a hiccup with that. Sometimes I'll still think of, I don't want to put this on that person.
Right.
And that's bullshit. You're giving them an opportunity to step into whatever it is that they can step into.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Here, maybe I'll scoot this way. You sinking in the couch?
This is a used old couch. Speaking of couches.
Pre-loved.
Free and loved, yes.
Free loved.
Lots of love in it.
Yeah. We furnished this whole house for $200 because of the
Under $200.
under $200.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's
Magic.
very homey still.
Magic in the valley. It would be very akin to stop trying to grab all the opportunities and become the flower. You know what I mean? And it would also be very akin to don't worry about what other people think, especially the people who are closest to you, like your family members. It would be live your true self and be your true self fully, not just for the people who you know will accept you. And that's funny, because I know my family members will accept me. I think that they have some fear and misconceptions about things, and I think that they are used to who I have been and who I have shown them that I was. And I guess I don't know if I'm worried that it'll disappoint them or that they'll project fear onto me. I'm not sure. Granted, that's up to me to accept the fear that's projected onto me. But my old primary question, it's funny how this goes back to this, was what do I need to do right now? So it's always, there's always things to do.
Yeah.
And that was very ingrained through lots of stressful and painful moments in my life, and had to do with performing in school, not letting my parents down, not letting my professors down, not letting my school classmates, like partners, down, not letting my other significant others down, which they were going through a lot of emotional things at the time too. I kept essentially dating the same person with similar people with the same emotional issues, which would then become an emotionally abusive relationship. And so there's just lots of fear about being overburdened, and even when I was a kid, I was taught to not ask for something for somebody else. If somebody offers something, deny until they offer it multiple times, and then maybe you can accept. And so it's a lot of that was very ingrained. And so it is stop worrying about what other people think, stop worrying about inconveniencing them and hurting them, and just be your true self. And by being your true self, you will be the flower, and the correct bees will come. And when you stop trying to, but you also have to stop looking for all the bees, you know what I mean? Or looking for all the flowers, rather. You have to stop being the bee and flying around and finding all the flowers and like trying to pull them to you and not let any slip through your fingers. And it's like, sometimes bees come to you, sometimes opportunities come to you to teach you something and to get you off your ass for a second. And then once you have done the purpose of that opportunity, it leaves. And fulfilling the opportunity may not have been the purpose.
Right.
And you just have to accept that. And know that when your true self and when bees come to you, and you go after the ones that feel right for you, you're going in the right direction and just going along for the ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these are things that I think we all intellectually know, but to emotionally know it,
To embody it.
and to embody it is different.
Yes.
And my future self would tell me some wisdom after that person embodies it.
Right. Embody that shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was all I had. Thank you so much for coming on. I've loved hanging out with you guys for the last couple of days. It's been actually incredible, just like hanging out, and just it feels like so homey here, and so much magic is here, like not only in the Valley but also in this home. And I loved you guys just welcoming me into your community and your home and your space, and I love you guys so much.
Of course, it's been amazing. We love you too.
This was so awesome.
Yeah.
So
Come
many
anytime.
amazing things.
I will, and then wherever I am in the world, I'm sure we'll definitely cross paths again at Date with Destiny.
Yeah.
But hopefully somewhere else before. There's so many opportunities before then, or whatever. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. We'll catch you next time on the Visualize Meditations podcast. Bye.
Bye, guys.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Visualize Meditations podcast. Please follow, subscribe, leave a review, all of the good things. If you want to connect more, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Living Your Vision. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, create the life of your dreams, and we will see you next week.